Being able to communicate is a huge part of life. It's a fundamental skill that we all need to build community, do work, and get around. But for a lot of people in the US, we're limited in our verbal communication to only one language, English. Fortunately, it's a pretty common language around the world, so it doesn't hinder as much as being monolingual with something else, but can still be a challenge when traveling and meeting people. And in general, limits your ability to really engage with people that might not speak your language. That's where Babbel claims it can help. The marketing product for this claims that in just 3 weeks, they can help you learn an entirely new language. Given the value of learning a new language to me personally, as well as in general, I wanted to put this to the test. Can you learn a new language in 3 weeks with Babbel? Let's find out. I officially subscribed to Babbel on October 31st of 2023. Yeah, it's like a weird thing to do on Halloween, but that's when the advertisements really got to me. They continued to claim that you could learn a whole new language in just 3 weeks with the program. So here I am on the internet talking to you about my review of this product, assuming anyone watches this video. To really test this out, I decided to learn German and then test it out in the wild. I'd bought plane tickets to visit my parents, who happen to live in Germany. This would be a real opportunity to practice my Deutsch with real people that speak Deutsch. Here's the thing. While my parents live in Germany and my mom is fluent in the language and my dad also speaks German now, I have never learned it. I just didn't. So my vocab at the time of starting this is pretty limited to food words and then some other random ones. So specifically, I could say Bier, Wein, Jägerschnitzel, Bratwurst und Toilet. Bitte and danke are also words, like please and thank you. But truly not great at this. Up to this point, I'd also heard more words in German, but could not tell you what they meant. So some things were familiar to me, and I'd heard them a lot in context, but I didn't actually know what the translations were. So this feels like a fairly good field test of someone that doesn't know a language trying to get to speed to be able to talk to people in 3 weeks. Purchasing was easy, as it is with most products. I ended up opting for the 3-month subscription since even though I was testing a 3-week time period, my trip to Germany was over 3 weeks, closer to 2 months from when my initial purchase was, so I needed to give some fluff room. Something else I didn't immediately see in the advertisements and wasn't available, at least to me, until later, is that there is a possibility of purchasing a subscription that includes live classes. This intuitively seems like a better way to try and learn a language at rapid speed, but is not what they said you had to do in the advertisements that claimed you could learn it in 3 weeks. So I'm sticking with the baseline. Prior to getting started with the lessons, I answered a few questions to let Babbel know what my goals were and how much I was willing to commit to doing this. My goal was to be able to talk to friends conversationally in 3 weeks. Did I mention that I wanted to do this all in 3 weeks? Because Babbel said I could. In order to set what is, I think, a pretty reasonable goal that I could sustain, but also give Babbel a fair shot to accomplish this, kind of insane feat, I opted to commit 30 minutes per day for the allotted 3-week period of time. The lessons were structured in a series format, and since I was completely unfamiliar with the language, basically, I started with the very first lesson, Hallo, wie geht's dir? Which is, hello, how are you? Each lesson was pretty short and would include listening, speaking, reading, and writing all within the same lesson. The review section was pretty good. When navigating to that part of the site, you were given a couple different options for how you'd like to review the material. So you could use flashcards, you could work on writing, you could listen and try to recall what that meant in English. Or you could play games was another option that was pretty fun. I mostly lean towards the flashcards and the listening because based on my previous experience with trying to learn other languages like French, I found that seemed to help the most when I was actually having conversations with people. Sometimes it feels easier to like kind of fall into the writing learning, but that doesn't seem to actually translate really well for me to actually be able to have conversations with people. So I was kind of avoiding that where possible. And then kind of finally, as we're wrapping up talking about the lessons, I just want to mention that Babbel tracks the activity that you're doing by the number of activities you do in a week. So activities in this case being actual lessons or review sets or games. So I, for the first few weeks, was mostly focusing on getting lessons in, and that would be a majority of my activity. And then when I was a little further along, I spent more time in the review section because I wanted to be able to continue to recall what I was learning. For my goal, Babbel recommended that I complete 7 activities per week, but because I was opting for about 30 minutes a day, I was able to complete closer to like 5 activities per day. And so my average on the weeks were about like 30 activities instead of 7, which by all standards means I should be so fluent in Deutsch by the end of this. We'll see. Also, in case you need it, here's a little video evidence of me practicing. So have fun with that.
Bear.
Bear. It's so cute. Like
Beer.
Like a
Apfel.
Apfel. Bitch, that's what it said.
Apfel.
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 Apfel. Nuh-uh.
Apfel.
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 Apfel. Are you kidding?
Apfel.
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 Apfel. Äpfel.
Äpfel. Bitch.
Äpfel.
Äpfel. Nuh-uh. I'm gonna die. Oh god, I'm really bad at this. Yeah, I'm not done reviewing. I need more review. Let's listen.
4.
4. Right? Right.
1.
1.
Gemütlich.
Gemütlich. It's cozy.
Wer sind Sie?
Wer sind Sie? Who are you? Formal.
Ein Brötchen.
Ein Brötchen. A Brötchen. It's a bread roll.
Wer ist das?
Wer ist das? Who is that?
Wer bist du?
Wer bist du? Who are you? No, who are you? I clicked her. I said it right.
Wie geht's dir?
Wie geht's dir? How are you?
You'll just need to trust that that happened more than twice. Also, after 2 weeks, I had some thoughts, so I'll toss those in here so you can know where I was at the 2-week mark.
Hi, I am on my, I think, 2nd week of Babbel. Let me go to the homepage and look. Yeah, when did I start this? I started 12 days ago, so I'm almost like 2 weeks in, and I'm enjoying it. I like it so far. I think there's like way more to the website than I would have expected. I like that it's largely focused on like trying to get you vocab so you can say words. And I think the order of the things that they're teaching me is helpful. I'm in like because I went for a language I don't speak at all. They started with stuff that's like, I think more applicable when you're first trying to learn a language, like how do you navigate train systems and like how do you just do greetings and ask questions. So I think that is good. I've been doing it about like 15 to 30 minutes a day, and I've got to say, I think there's like almost 0% chance that I'm going to feel comfortable like speaking German when I go to visit my parents in Germany. Well, I'm going to practice with them, but I don't think that I'm going to be like, yeah, let me talk to strangers. But overall, I'm really liking the product. I think I just wanted to pause here and be like, holy shit, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. I think that I'm doing better than I would have expected. I kind of was like, it's gonna be dumb. But they've got like a really good review section. The lessons are structured in a way that I like. It doesn't take too long to do any individual lesson. You get 2 free live sessions with the standard. And I think I want to try that because I feel like actually talking to people is probably going to help a ton. And the explore section's fun. There's like a game that I've done a couple times, which is cool. Overall, yeah, I really like it. It seems like it's worth, I can't say for certain. Maybe I'm going to go talk to my parents and they're going to be like, that's not what you just said. But I feel like so far I'm enjoying it. I think it's worth it. They also have podcasts. So if I'm like not up for hopping on my computer, there's like an app and a podcast that you can listen to that helps like keep up the language. So I'm probably going to try starting to listen to the podcast on my way into work too, to help, because I want to give them like I want to try to get the full experience. I want to do everything that they are offering and see how German I can be. Babbel 2-week check-in. Thumbs up so far.
So now I'm going to go over my feelings after 3 weeks of doing Babbel, but before my trip to Germany, so we can kind of get a vibe of pre-Germany trip. Also, I'm holding my mic because I feel like it. So here we go. Yeah, so I guess like 3 weeks in, I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like I've learned a lot of vocab that I didn't know before, and it seems like stuff that's applicable, like how do I order food, how do I ask about trains, stuff like that, like introductions and things. So it feels like stuff that would be useful, and I feel like I know a lot. I'm not sure, now that it's getting closer, I'm not sure how I feel about it actually translating into talking to people. Like, my initial plan was to basically like just start saying words to my mom when I get there and be like, "Hallo, ich spreche Deutsch now. Ta-da." And I don't know if that's gonna happen. I have tried to listen to the podcast to help with like just understanding what people are saying, but I feel like I'm still missing a lot of words and like meaning. The lessons are good, but they're so structured that it's really easy to feel like you're learning a lot and then go out and try to like listen to German and be like, oh shit, scheiße, I don't know what is happening. So yeah. Also, I haven't been double checking anything they're telling me, so theoretically they could be saying that like, you know all these words now, and all the vocab could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't confirmed that they're teaching me the right words, so I might be learning like no language right now. So I don't know. That's not a real hypothesis I have, but it is a possibility that I feel like I should mention. Yeah. So I guess as expected, I didn't think this was real. The whole learn a language in 3 weeks still feels like not real. I'm gonna give it a college try when I get there, but I would say I am not optimistic that I'm gonna feel like in my element when I try speaking German to people. That is my, before I actually try to talk to someone in Deutsch in real life, thoughts. Now I'm nervous. Can you tell? Anyway, yeah, that's it. I'll do a post when I'm in Germany update so you can know how that went. Bis später! I got to Germany on December 11th, but after over 20 hours of straight traveling, I was not inclined to like immediately start trying to speak German to people. At this point, I was 2 to 3 weeks past my initial sprint, but I'd continued to do reviews and even taken some new lessons. So I theoretically shouldn't have lost any of the knowledge I had at the end of the 3-week mark, and if anything, should be more fluent than I was at the time that I had finished my like sprint. I think I already said this, but initially my plan was to just start speaking German to my parents. I was going to record it and be like, wow, look at my German. I didn't do that. I got nervous and instead just like told my mom in the kitchen that I had been practicing learning German on Babbel, and then she was like, oh, try saying some stuff. And so I basically just like spat out whatever words I could free recall which wasn't like amazing. So I could do like, hello, how are you? Hallo, wie geht's dir? And I remembered some like random words like Gemschnecke, which is cinnamon roll, and like Nachbarn, which is neighbor. But those aren't like incredibly useful to just toss into dialogue, so it wasn't amazing. I think the real thing I struggled with is that I didn't know enough vocab to just be able to translate my thoughts into German, so I wasn't able to just like have the conversation I would normally have with my mom, but try to do it in kind of broken German. It was very specific vocab that would be potentially useful if I was like traveling or at restaurants, but it wasn't really useful in that context where I was just trying to like chat with my mom in the kitchen. So that was a fail. Past that, I was in Germany for like 2.5 weeks total, and in that time we did go out to restaurants and like travel a bit. Travel be like kind of just wander around. We didn't really take trains when I was there this time. We went to some Christmas markets. I went to some restaurants with my parents, and so in that time I kind of got to practice the vocab associated with ordering, which was nice. Some of those just like kind of niceties that you'll say to people, and that was helpful. I was also able to kind of follow some conversations. I knew enough to like pick out some words, but definitely wouldn't say I was like totally following what was going on most of the time when people were speaking German. One note in particular that was kind of fun, but also like, yep, nope, this is not my language. I was with my parents and we were watching a Christmas movie in German. It was kind of a weird one, but I was just sitting there with my parents trying to kind of understand what was going on. So they would be like, the movie would go on, they would say some stuff, and then I was like, oh, they said this. And then I would just kind of repeat words back to my parents to see if my vocab was okay. And so it was fun. It was cool to do that. But I have to just like reiterate, there, like, not even ballpark was I fluent in the language. I had been practicing a lot, more than 3 weeks, because I had to based on like the timelines. And in no way was I fluent in German. I was better than I had previously been. Like, I'd never been able to get that far in German when I was visiting my parents, but I would not say that I was fluent. I think that is a vast overstatement for the capacity of this tool. The end. Because I was kind of practicing with my parents, I did a lot of like just kind of practicing with my parents where I would like try to say something, my mom would correct me or be like, yep, that's how you say it. And then we would go back and forth a little bit. I would practice my pronunciation and get help with it. I would joke around with my pronunciation a lot. I like to make the sound. And it made my mom laugh when I was dramatic. So did that. But I feel like I actually got a lot more out of it practicing with my parents and like listening to real people than I did in the 3 weeks of doing Babbel. Ich spreche nicht so gut Deutsch, aber ich kinda spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. As stated approximately 3 seconds ago in video editing time, I did not learn German in 3 weeks, even though I practiced a ton. So, this probably isn't the best way to speedrun learning a language, as expected. I, based on my own experience and absolutely no data, think that the best way to learn a language quickly is probably just immersion. Going to a place where you have to speak a language to native speakers is going to give you the best chance of learning something quickly. With tools like Babbel, there's kind of a fail-out option where you can just stop practicing or opt to learn English, and that's not really the case when you're immersing yourself in only being around people that can speak that one language. I guess you could theoretically just like stop talking entirely, but it seems unlikely. It's also really different to talk to actual humans in the wild than it is to listen to a very controlled dialogue or vocab lesson on an app. Things like the speed of people speaking, the way that we mesh words together, accents can really influence the way that you're hearing people speak. So having the opportunity to actually talk to my parents and listen to people in the wild was massively helpful for actually getting me to a new level with German. Natürlich. That all being said, I think Babbel is a fine product as a supplement to actually talking to people in a new language. Since I didn't actually compare another product to Babbel when making this video, I can't tell you whether it's better than other products on the market, but I can say it seems worth the price of admission. While I don't think it's reasonable to assume that a tool like Babbel alone will help you to entirely learn a language, I think it can function as a nice supplement. It can be really hard to learn a language and fully immerse yourself if you don't have any shared vocab with people. And so I think that this can help you to get a more comfortable baseline that makes it easier, reduces the barrier of entry when you go and try to talk to new people in a different language. But that talking to people in another language, I think, is an important part of successfully learning how to talk to people in another language. The major con for Babbel, I think, holds with all comparable products, and it's that it can help you get some vocab, but it won't get you over the finish line when it comes to being fluent in a language. Other than that, there's not any like really big cons that I could find. It's mostly that you just need to like set expectations reasonably when getting to use the product. Some of the pros of Babbel specifically. One major pro that I found is that the extras were pretty cool. One in particular that I really loved was a game that was kind of nostalgic, even though obviously I hadn't played the game before, where you would move a little character like Nintendo style across this little like castle map looking thing, and then you had to get through barriers, which were like the times that you would practice German. Thought that was super fun, really loved it. It was nice to have that as a supplement when my brain was like too low to do actual lessons for the day. They also had podcasts, which I think are a great method of getting more comfortable listening to people speak actual dialogue. The lesson structure is pretty controlled, so it's hard to get comfortable listening to people speak as they would like I am now. The podcast kind of supplemented that bit. While you weren't speaking back, you were getting spoken to, which is helpful. They did have some podcasts just on like the Apple Podcasts app, but I found that on the Babbel app itself, it worked a little better. So that was cool. I would say in general, I liked the structure of the lessons that they had. They used a combination of listening, speaking, reading, and writing to like give you a really full type of lesson, which I think is helpful. In the past, I've definitely had professors and other people lean more heavily on the reading and writing and not enough on the like verbalizing part of a language, which can make it more difficult for me to actually like use the language in real life. I would also say the lessons were a reasonable length, so it was really easy to fit in like a single lesson in the day, even if you didn't feel comfortable dedicating the full like 30 minutes because it's a busy day or whatever. It was really easy to squeeze in one. Also, they have an app for phones as well as a desktop version that's accessible, and I thought that was really nice because it enabled you to alternate between like which device you're using. I tended to lean towards using the desktop because it would get me in kind of a focused mode, but it was nice for days when I was just kind of sitting on the couch and wanted to stop watching TV for a minute to be able to go onto my phone, do a couple minutes of German, and then go back to whatever like lazy person activity I was up to. And now that we've done kind of pros and cons, I want to add a couple neutral comments in here. Quick disclaimer here that you might feel that these are actually pros or cons based on your own personal experience, but for me, I think there's like an argument to be made for either, so I just tossed them here. First, neutral is that this runs on a subscription model, which means that every X number of months they're going to charge you again. This is something that it's kind of neither here nor there, but I personally am not a huge fan of subscription models. I think it can be really easy to just forget that you purchased something and then all of a sudden your credit card gets charged. And given the cost of this, that's not ideal. I would say it makes sense for this type of service for it to run on that type of model. So I don't think it's as like annoying as some other versions of this. Like, I'm not going to call anything out. I kind of want to call something out, but I'm not going to. We'll get to it if I do a consumer review. But I would say since I personally have started to move away from having my credit card on any type of subscription service, I would just be warned. This is in some ways a really cool service. A subscription model might make sense, but if you're trying to be fiscally responsible and not have too many subscriptions on your account, that's a thing to know about. Another note, there's no free option from what I can tell. This, for me, it kind of feels like a pro because I feel like if I'm paying for a service like this, I'm more inclined to use it. When I'm putting money towards learning a thing, I tend to actually try to learn it. But if I'm doing something for free, I'm not always as inclined to do that when things get tough. So that kind of feels like a pro. But it does also mean that some people just aren't going to be able to do it, which sucks. So, I don't know. It isn't free, so you should be thoughtful about whether or not you're willing to spend the money. But if you are willing to spend the money, I think that is an incentive to continue to use the service. So, to summarize kind of the pros, cons, neutrals here, I would say if you're interested in learning a new language and want a tool to help supplement, and you have some expendable income that you're willing to put towards it, this might be a good option to try out. It definitely doesn't replace having actual conversations with people, but is a good tool to help with the journey, in my experience. While this was technically a consumer review, it reminded me that I still do really want to learn German. It would be nice to be able to visit my parents and feel more comfortable navigating around solo and just being able to talk to people by myself without feeling like I'm dependent on my parents to get around. So I think I'm gonna keep this one up. Yeah, I'm undecided if I'm gonna renew Babbel to keep up with this or if I'm gonna find something else to help supplement my learning. I set it so it wouldn't renew my subscription because I didn't want to accidentally keep paying if I wasn't going to keep using it. But I think I'm gonna keep doing stuff to practice German. Maybe I'll even join a club or something. If you're interested in hearing more about my journey trying to do that, maybe subscribe, because that's how you'll know what I'm up to. Also, yeah, if you made it this far in the video, you should definitely like it, because how are you still here? Nobody watches my videos. And if you are, let me know in the comments if you have tried to learn a language and what your preferred method is. I find learning a language is something that I'm really interested in doing, and also it's so hard and daunting as someone American that has only really learned English and doesn't really have the opportunity to practice other languages a ton. So I would love to know what other people find to be helpful for this. That's all I've got for you, and outros are hard. If you're still here, vielen Dank, einen schönen Tag noch. Auf Wiedersehen. Ich spreche nicht sehr gut Deutsch, aber ich kinda spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. Are there any other words I wanted to say in German? Nein!